Hello, good evening, and welcome to Footy Corner. I'm Sparks. Welcome in. Nice to see you, and please make sure you're hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Make sure you've got any comments. You put them in the chat, or you put them down in the video comments, and we'll get back to them. We're back again with Varun. How are we, my friend?
Oh, I'm doing great, thanks. How about you?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. It's been a bit of a day. But yeah, I'm still decorating the back room, so I'm trying to get it ready for a carpet, which my mate, who's a carpet fitter, basically told me he can do it Thursday. So yeah, it gets a bit hectic, but there we go. Yeah, so we were talking yesterday about the. I've just been watching a stream, right? So I just kind of nicking a bit of their content, I suppose, but not nicking the content, more responding to the content as such. But basically saying that we shouldn't be going for, we shouldn't have got a backup keeper. We shouldn't have got a backup centre back, right centre back, even though when Saliba was out, we struggled for a replacement for him. And we should have just gone all guns blazing. We should have got Madueke. When everybody's been screaming about having backup for Saka, having this, that, and the other, and we get it, and that's a problem as well. But we should go all guns blazing for Rodrigo. Now, I've heard all this before because when we were going for Sesko, and it was Arteta's choice, and why are you going for Sesko? And we know it's Arteta's choice, and we know the problem is Arteta. And why don't you go for Gyökeres? We go for Gyökeres, and the problem goes on to a different position. We just can't win, can we?
No, and it goes back to what we were talking about yesterday, that some people will just always look for someone to blame for anything that they feel is not going up to their standards. And, they won't be satisfied unless we're signing every world-class player under the sun and they're all playing for Arsenal. Only 11 get on the pitch to start. Only 16 at most will play in a game.
Well, this is the other point. You don't have just a starting 11 anymore anyway. You've got a group of 15 to 16 players that you're going to select and rotate through, which Arteta tried to do last season. And, he knackered up because obviously he went with a small squad. The squad should have been bigger. And as we were saying yesterday, you've got the utility players who are substituted in for there, and you don't have the substitute for there anymore. He goes out with an injury, and your substitute right back is the central midfielder.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is that last season, for anyone that's complaining right now about getting a backup goalkeeper or the backup for Saliba or any other depth signing, that's not an obvious ceiling raiser, shall we say, someone who elevates the quality of the first 11. If you're finding something wrong with that, last season should have opened those people's eyes in terms of how important it is to get quality depth in those positions, in every position. We talked about this yesterday briefly, that yes, we signed Neto on loan from Bournemouth to back up Raya, but it was just our luck that the cup game where we would have rested Raya came against Neto's parent club, so we couldn't play him anyway. You need a proper signing, not a loan signing. Loans are good.
I mean, it didn't help that we signed a loan cup-tied keeper.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I mean. It needs to be it needs to be permanent signings. And we've done that, and I don't know how anyone can complain about that. Like we talked about Kepa yesterday, so there's no sense in going over that again today. But Mosquera it's a big thing. Like we saw when we lost Gabriel. Yes, Kivior played very well, but he's not Gabriel. He's not quite at the same level as a prime fit Gabriel is for our side. But he's quality enough depth to cover for a little while, which is all we're saying. We're not saying that we need to get someone like a prime Sergio Ramos or Varane or anyone like that to back up Saliba. No, that would make no sense at all. But we do need a backup, and that's what we got. I don't understand the
A
argument
highly
of
expected
going.
backup.
Yeah,
Is
I,
it like,
I don't understand the argument of going all in on someone like a Rodrigo or Isaac, because the reality is we're not like Chelsea or Newcastle or Man City that can just spend and spend, and if a signing doesn't work out, we just spend more. That's
yeah.
not how it works. We need to be a little bit more sensible with the finances as a club. I'm not saying we as the fans need to, but we should as fans be able to understand why the club needs to get the depth signings right.
Yeah, I don't think we should be that way. By the way, I think that we should be in a position where we don't have to act like that. But unfortunately, for whatever reason, whether it be the owners don't want to put their own money in, we
Mhm.
just don't do it. And all right, we're getting to the point now where the commercial revenues and everything are getting into that point.
Yeah.
Can you not hear me?
No, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I just seen a message in a private chat. It's like an old one.
No.
So yeah, but yeah, I think we should be in that position where we can just go and spend anything, but we're just not in that position anymore. We haven't been for years because we've been out of Champions League, and we've got just getting back into that point, and that is now building commercial revenue. So it's building commercial deals, and it's getting to the point where we can actually spend again. But
yeah, and the reality is, yeah, and we're like, I think us and Liverpool are very similar in that respect, in that the owners don't just want to funnel the money in endlessly at either club, which is fine. I think that's completely understandable from their perspective. If you're trying to build a self-sustaining model, then yes, it cannot be just reliant on the owners bailing the clubs out every single time.
Yeah, sure.
Some of it's a large chunk of it has got to come from the club managing its finances properly. I think too many fans were always quick to talk about how Chelsea and Man City have ruined the financial landscape of transfers in football. But it seems like when every transfer window comes around, our fans would be very happy if we operated exactly like them. I wouldn't. I mean, I like new signings as much as the next supporter, but I do try to understand that there's a bigger picture involved here in terms of the club finances, and we have to abide by that, especially with these new PSR rules, everything like that. That all comes back in. That all factors in. We have to be aware of it.
Yeah, I mean, in fairness, I was in that position where I was like, it's PSR, this, that, and the other. I don't really care anymore. But the reason I don't care, really, from that point of view, is I pay for a season ticket every year, and even when we don't win anything, they put the prices up, and they're putting money in their pockets. Now, I get that they're doing that so that they can compete, and they're doing it for financial reasons and such like. But we should be getting into a position where that doesn't happen.
No,
where it's the commercials deals that are basically keeping the ticket prices to a relative figure. But we all know with an American business model that the prices are just going to go up and up and up, and they don't really care because there's a massive waiting list for season tickets, for example, and if I go, somebody's going to take my spot.
Yeah, I'm on the waiting list too.
Yeah, but it's painful. I mean, I live I live about 60 miles away from the stadium. A lot of people travel in, and obviously you spend at least the price of a season ticket getting to games and doing whatever you need to do.
Yeah.
To having a season ticket in the first place. So
Yeah.
I'm not really bothered about the accounting anymore. I just want the best players. And I realize I do realize that the best players for us is not the best players for Real Madrid. By the way, I'm not thinking
Yeah.
we're gonna go and sign Mbappe or we're gonna sign whatever. But when people are saying as well, just go guns out for Rodrigo, I'd love Rodrigo at the club. Absolutely would love him, but he's got to come first.
Yeah,
what are you going to do
and the reports? Sorry, the reports all summer are, they haven't indicated at all that Rodrigo wants to leave. Every time a report comes out, they say Rodrigo's happy to stay at Madrid. He's not looking to leave Madrid. I don't know why. I mean, if we can convince him, great, but I'm not hedging any bets on us signing Rodrigo. And after some of the signings that we have made already this year, take Gyökeres, for example. I want players like that. I mean, quality, obviously, but they want to play for the club. That matters, because that is going to dictate a little bit as to how much extra fight they're going to give for the badge. I know any footballer will fight for the badge, will fight for his teammates and so on. Yeah, absolutely. But when you think about how hard Gyökeres has fought to be here, you would think that is going to add just that little bit extra desire within the player to prove himself to the crowd, to his teammates, to his manager. I want players like that. They don't have to be, every single one doesn't have to be a Galactico, but they should want to play for us. I'd rather that.
Yeah, the one thing that I kind of take from that as well is if he's just benched and he's happy just to sit on the bench and just because it's Real Madrid, then I don't particularly want him anyway.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because it's that mental attitude of I'd rather be playing, even if it's for an Arsenal, than Real Madrid. I'd rather be playing rather than be sat on the bench wasting away or whatever, just because I'm wearing a white shirt.
Well, yeah, and compare. It's a good example you brought up because it's kind of relevant to news that's broken out today, not related to Arsenal necessarily, but take Benjamin Sesko, for example, who a couple of weeks ago, it sort of came out in reports that he had hesitated to believe whether he could displace Havertz from the starting 11 after we beat Chelsea at the Emirates, not the season just gone, but the one before. And that kind of put some doubt in Sesko's mind. It's exactly what you're describing for Rodrigo, that Sesko, if he didn't feel he could come to Arsenal and fight for that starting spot, is that really the mentality of player you want at the club? We're not at a stage anymore where we're progressing up to being near the top of the league. We are already near the top of the league. Now it's about getting to that final stretch. In order for that, you need players who have really good quality and back themselves to fight and succeed to get into the starting 11 every week.
Yeah, for sure. And I completely agree with that. And it's kind of got to be somebody that literally wants to come and play, and they don't care how they get there. They don't care where they've come from. As much as people criticize Madueke, he's gone from Chelsea to Arsenal, and he had no problem doing that. So why should we have any problem receiving him?
Exactly. He wanted to join us.
Yeah. So we don't know the reasons, but does he see that it isn't a project anymore for Arsenal? It's filling the holes and getting over the hill, basically.
And the thing is, I think with Madueke, it's a good example because we know Saka is currently first choice on that right wing. Madueke plays on that wing primarily as well. If he's joined us and he's been keen to join us, he's very clearly not joining knowing that he's just a bench option. He's obviously backing himself to fight Saka for that spot, and or maybe Martinelli or
or any
Trossard.
spot.
Or
Yeah.
else. Yeah, he's backing himself to work his way into the starting 11. That's what you want. A player that has quality, is ready for the top level. Madueke is still young. He's 23. He's got room to develop, and I'm sure he will. But he also has that confidence in himself and his ability to break through into a starting 11 and not just start every game from the bench and then come off and impact the game later on.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously we've had people that have criticised the amount of game time Saka gets, and that we've got no backup for him. And then when we do get backup, he then becomes a problem. I get that it's a problem because he's come from Chelsea. I get that, but that's going to happen more and more because not just with Arsenal, with any club, because they're just buying so many players. They know that they want players with Premier League experience, however small it is. They probably know that most players want to stay in London, so that they're buying up these players and then just I think I said it last night that it's just like an Argos catalogue, isn't it? At the end of the day, and they make ridiculous profits out of it, which is fair play to them. I don't agree with the methodology that they've got to where they can spend such funds, but at the end of the day, I don't think anybody can basically call them out for the value that they sell at compared to the value they buy at. It's just crazy, and they're the best in the business, unfortunately. And the only way to kind of stop that influx from Chelsea is to either produce it yourself or buy them in, just like they're doing. Because all they've done is basically they've taken the scouting model from the likes of Brighton, and they just buy them up.
Well, the thing is that Chelsea, we've talked about this as well, that Chelsea don't seem to have the same restrictions or hurdles to face with regards to finances and transfers in general. They're able to spend because their owners will happily keep funneling money into the club, whether it was Abramovich in the past or Todd Bowley now, it doesn't matter. They are able to do that, which is why they're able to stockpile talent, because they don't seem to face any consequences. They don't treat the players like human beings to try and build a squad with chemistry. They're treating them like commodities, like just trying to, like you said, like Argos, like they're just trying to stockpile all the good talent, because there's no doubt that the players they're signing are good. They're obviously quality players, but with so many of them, you cannot build such a cohesive unit as Liverpool were last season, or some of the City sides, or us recently. Like that needs a smaller squad. Whereas, like we've talked about, we probably needed a bigger squad than we had last season. Or if not a bigger squad,
sure.
if not a bigger squad, we at least needed there to be less of a gap in quality between the first choice 11 and the fringe players that are looking to break into it, which I think is what we've been doing this summer very well. We've reduced that gap in quality between obvious first choice players and players coming off the bench.
Yeah, I completely agree. And Khalid says here, Nani will contribute massively. He's versatile and Prem proven. He is, again, he's no Rodrigo. He might turn into somebody like Rodrigo. We don't know. I mean, he's still young. His projection is still going up. We've just got to hope it keeps going up. And he provides massively influential for the side, and hopefully wins us something. But you can't argue that our backup in that position and the backup on the left wing, or sometimes the start in the left wing in cup competitions, including in Champions League, was Raheem Sterling. So you certainly can't argue that he's an upgrade on that.
Oh yeah, I mean, think about whatever you might have as opinions on Martinelli and Trossard, whether they're the right fit, whether we need to upgrade on them, whatever your opinion is on that. The reality is last season, yes, Sterling was an option on the left wing, but it was a very obvious gap in quality between Martinelli or Trossard and then Sterling as another option there. Madueke might not yet be, I mean, we don't even know if he's being considered as the primary option for a left wing position. I think the fact that he can play both is a good thing. It means he may still push Martinelli or Trossard there. But the reality is that someone like a Madueke, if he is being considered for the left wing, he is closer in quality to Martinelli and Trossard than Sterling was. And he's much younger. Sterling was in the twilight of his career, obviously. Madueke has not yet hit his prime, which means he's still due to get even better. So he will continue closing that gap to the options we already have on whichever wing he's on.
Do you think he would usurp either Trossard or Martinelli? Do you think he's got the ability to do that?
I think it's hard to say right now. I won't
Without
pretend
watching to
that
see what he's going to do.
Yeah, and Madueke, his natural position is not left wing, right? I know he played there a few times for Chelsea, and maybe a little bit more in the past
He did fit
his previous clubs. But I know he primarily likes to play on the same side as Saka. So I think it's more, he's been signed more so that we can manage Saka's minutes as well. And Madueke is a good enough talent that he'll be direct. It gives us something slightly different than what Saka gives us on the right wing. But given that he's got experience playing on the left wing, and I don't think Martinelli had as strong of a preseason as I think we were hoping for him to have. I personally was thinking he would really kind of use preseason as an opportunity he could take by the scruff of the neck. And I don't think that's quite what's happened for him. Trossard, I thought, had good flashes across the games that I've watched. But again, if he's picked up an injury and he's out for a while, then at the moment we have one left winger in Martinelli. So Madueke could be an option for that side, at least in the meantime, unless we know we're getting some other left wing player in, whether that's an Eze or Rodrigo or somebody else that's not been mentioned yet.
Let me just do these comments because they're quite a little bit interesting on the Nani thing, as we're still on it anyway. But he's just Khalid's basically going. Yeah, I'm assuming there's a bit of sarcasm in there, Khalid. Raheem did set the bar really high. He did an interview actually, basically saying that he'd come back. How do you feel about that?
That he would, like Sterling would come back
Sterling,
to us.
He'd come back in a heartbeat, basically.
I have no doubt that he would. And didn't he sign his son up in our academy at the end of the season?
Yeah.
So he very obviously likes the culture at the club, and I think that is what he's referring to, in that he'd come back because it's a healthy culture.
Environment.
Yeah, a healthy environment for any player. Whether or not Sterling was able to contribute a lot to it, obviously we'll all have our opinions on that, but I think his words and his actions regarding us, even at the end of the season and the end of his loan deal with us, they speak volumes about what our environment is like. If he says he'd be coming back in a heartbeat, he likes the environment. I don't think it's a comment made that he would try to kind of sponge off us for the rest of his career. I think he genuinely means it, because his signing his son up for the club at the young age that he's at, that says how much faith he has right now in the club.
You know who I'd love to see him sign for?
Who?
I'd love to see him go to Spurs and basically go give the same spiel that he gave when he joined Chelsea, when he joined Liverpool, when he joined Arsenal, and basically go where you're going to get the best version of me, this, that, and the other, and just completely just fall over and do nothing.
Well, Son has just announced that he's leaving, right? A couple of days ago, he said that
the slot is open.
Spurs do need someone on the
That's quite funny. But yeah, Nani's into the England international. I doubt he's coming here to sit on the bench. He's coming for somebody's spot. I I, I hope he is.
I
I
hope so
hope
too.
that's exactly what he wants to do. And I mean, he's 23, isn't he? He's not exactly you know, he's nowhere in his prime yet. Um, I think I saw earlier on. I looked on transfer marks. I was looking at a few random players. I didn't go purely on there to see what Madueke was. You know, as I said, I was watching somebody else's stream, and I was intrigued as a couple of things. And yeah, Madueke is about 45 million euros according to transfer marks. So as his value. So, but he's if you look on transfer marks and look at the trajectory of his value, it only goes in one direction. So maybe Arsenal scouts are just looking at transfer marks and trajectories. But maybe that's how Chelsea are buying their talent as well, which wouldn't
Maybe we don't. We
surprise me as
won't
well.
know. Will it remains to be seen. I think Madueke has just joined up with the squad today, right? He cut his holiday short to start training because he wants to be involved at the start of the
Yeah,
season.
he wants to be straight on, but yeah, I mean he's had preseason already, so he just needs to kind of adapt to the actual, you know, to the system and whatever the system is. We don't even know what the system is yet.
I think it's going to
Um,
be different. There's going to be
I
changes.
well, I as we were saying yesterday, I think it has to be
Hmm.
because if you're playing to the number nine, whose um, outlook is not primarily aerial, but he can hold the ball up. If he can hold up and then bring in the likes of Trossard and or Martinelli on that side, and then bring some of the attention, let's go with, away from Saka, and you get a bit more balance that way, don't you? So it just makes space all the way across the front line.
Yeah, and I think that's the purpose of someone like a Gyökeres and even Madueke and Eze, if we get him, is they bring in that little bit of unpredictability. Havertz is good for our squad up until now, where we're kind of relying on structure and hard workers and so on. He's excellent for that. He's really good at duel winning. He's good at, he knows he will fight for the last ball. We've seen that before. If you think back, not last season, but the one before at St. James Park. I know we didn't win the game, um, but the way he fought in that match was, I think, one of the turning points where he won over a lot of the skeptics. Uh, for Havertz. And I think you're right. Someone like Gyökeres is maybe the one that will bring in the unpredictability, a little bit of pace, a
Hmm.
little chaos, something that might start bringing the left hand side a little more into games,
Hmm.
and maybe either stop teams from doubling up on Saka or punishing them for doing that if they still stick to that tactic.
Well, I think we kind of said that yesterday as well, didn't we? It was kind of we used to get in that position and then quickly release to the other side of the pitch, and you got an overload on the other side. But that seems to have gone a bit wayward. It doesn't really happen that much anymore, and yeah, it's quite static, and it goes back where it came from. Lets everybody set up again, and then, like you say, you got two on Saka, maybe three on Saka, and that's how to nullify the attack. That's as we all know, that's basically what we need to address, and hopefully we have done that. So that'd be very nice, wouldn't it, if it actually works that way.
Let's see. I'm sure they've got something in mind, a system in place. They don't sign these players randomly, so there must be a plan in place. And I don't know, did you see the? I don't remember who released the figures yesterday, but there was a little chart that was released of players that had the most direct offensive contributions.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Wasn't Madueke third
He was. So I
on
think
that
the chart
chart? I mean, I
itself
don't know.
was the chart itself was intended to highlight that Eze was fifth on that list. And
Right.
so it's showing that we're very clearly going for players that will drive at defenders and be direct rather than kind of this horseshoe formation of pinning the opposition back. It's players that are actually going to help us transition quickly. Bukayo Saka was at the top of that list, and Eze was fifth. But I think a lot of people noticed, and like you said, Madueke was third. It does show, I think, clearly what the plan is. We want players that are going to drive at the opposition and not give them time to settle into shape. We want to cause them problems early before they know how to stop or double up on any of our attackers.
Yeah, but I mean, I think what we've seen over the last 2 years is basically we come up with a style of play and it stays like that for the whole year. And for me, it kind of needs to drift in and out of what we saw season one, what we saw season two, and then what we saw last season. To be honest,
I agree. I think I do think there's other factors that come into play. So, for example, in 22-23, when we, like you said, we did play right to left a little bit quicker at times, we did have Xhaka for that season. And I think he was a big part of us being able to integrate the left hand side into the game. Then he left at the end of that season. And so obviously there was a little bit of a change in system needed. We needed someone who could fill in that role in midfield well. And that's what we signed Havertz for. But then the injury to Jesus meant that Havertz had to go up front where he had some experience. And then we had to sign Jorginho and so on and so on. Like there were factors that impacted us from being able to include the left hand side as much as I think we wanted. But I agree with you that we need to be able to switch our style in and out of games, and I think that's what the signings this season have been brought in to try and do. Like you talked about Zubimendi yesterday, and the fact that he can conduct the play. That's a big part. Someone who's an upgrade on the options we had in that role in the past, who can be quicker at helping us transition from defense to attack and is comfortable on both feet. So that means he can help us transition using either wing as needed. Then you've got, like you said, your chaos elements in Gyökeres and Madueke. They can help us as well with transitioning the play or switching the play. That is one thing I hope we do more of this season, is when we're playing transitions, we switch the play more, because I think we are a little bit slow sometimes at getting from one end to the other. That might just be from the fact that our style of play has been a little bit more methodical in the recent past, at least.
yeah, too methodical, really.
Yeah, a little bit constructed and very rigid. If we're playing a little more openly, then maybe we'll be able to play those switches a little bit more, which will only make it more dangerous, I think, to defend against us.
Where do you think we are in the transfer window now? Do you think that we're done, or do you think Eze is going to come in? Do you think it's only Eze? Where do you think we're at?
I don't think we're done. I think we've definitely got to manage some outgoings. That's one thing that has to happen, just to balance our accounts a little bit more, because we've sold almost no one. I mean, I know there's been strong links with Reece Nelson to Fulham, and they've been apparently in talks, or they're interested in Zinchenko as well. Then there was news that Porto were considering a certain bid for Kivior, Stuttgart for Vieira. I think those sales will, maybe not Kivior might stay, but the others I think will eventually go. For incomings, there seems to be enough to the Eze links that I think we'll at least try for him. Now, I think his release clause has expired, so we're not stuck to that £68 million figure.
I don't think we're ever going to go to the release clause anyway.
No, we were never going to meet that. But I think the fact that that's gone means that we can try negotiating with Palace. I think similar to how we negotiated with Sociedad for Zubimendi. He had a release clause, and we agreed with them instead to pay over that so that we could pay it in installments.
Yeah, I think the main problem was if I read some decent sources that basically said that they wanted 35 million up front and then the rest done in another 2 payments. So the 3 times 20 million was a bit of a fallacy. But yeah, I mean, obviously they're looking at PSR where they're doing that and amortizing everything. Because obviously they've still got the shareholder loans that they need to pay off as well.
Yeah.
So
I think some of it will depend on. There's a few things I think that will impact this. One of them is this appeal that they've made so that they can hopefully get back into the Europa League. I think that, first of all, was a terrible decision by UEFA to demote them to the Conference League. They earned their way.
It's not only terrible; it's full of bias. It's just full of you know. You got is it RB Leipzig, and you know you've got teams like that that are doing it all over the place.
There's more clear examples of multi-club ownership where they are both playing in the same competition. But I think Palace, their hearing is within the next week or two to determine whether their appeal, is coming up soon. And I think that might have a part to play, because if they're in the Conference League, that's lower prize money. Which means that maybe they would want to stick to a high valuation for Eze. On the flip side of that is maybe this is the most they will get for Eze, because he is in his prime now. He'll start to maybe dwindle a little, or at least he may not be getting too much better than he currently is. So will they ever get a better chance to cash in on him? We'll have to wait and see. I think if I were a betting man, I would say Eze will be an Arsenal player by the end of the window. But I don't think it's one that gets resolved right away. Palace has the Community Shield coming up. I'm sure Eze would love to play in that, and Palace would love to have him for it. So I don't think anything big happens regarding Eze until after the Community Shield is done. That's my guess.
Yeah. Yeah, this one here says Marinakis made boss calls. Yeah, I mean, he wrote a letter to the FA. It really didn't help. You know, he's a bit of a hypocrite, if you ask me that one.
He's a bit of a character. He's strange.
He's definitely a character. I reckon he does all their social media posts on his own. He doesn't get anybody to do it for him. He literally sits there all day on the computer doing all their posts on social media.
That would be quite funny.
It would be funny, and I wouldn't put it past him. I really wouldn't. Where do you think Zinchenko goes, or do you think he actually goes at all?
Well, like I said yesterday, I think he will go. And the Fulham links, they've barely spent anything this summer so far, if at all. I think those links are strong enough that I wouldn't be surprised if Zinchenko ends up at Fulham by the end of August. At the same time, I do wonder a little whether it might be smart if we kept him, at least for now, just because I know there were training pictures out today from the squad, and all 6 of our new signings were there. Kepa's back from his minor injury as well, but there was no Calafiori or Trossard in any of the pictures. Gabriel was back in the pictures. Timber was back, so that's at least a relief that those 2 are there. And
Timber's been back a week, I think. I don't think. I think Gabriel's only just come back.
Yeah, but they are both in full kind of training with the squad. So I don't know what will happen, but if Calafiori, for whatever reason, isn't ready for our opening fixture at Old Trafford, would it maybe be smart for us to keep Zinchenko for a little longer, just as depth? Not saying he needs to start that game. Lewis Kelly can do that, but Zinchenko might be a smart person to keep around.
Yeah, I think we were saying that yesterday, and that was kind of the concept, and Khalid is kind of agreeing here that it might be a good idea. I think obviously Calafiori kind of is a bit of a victim of the start of the season last season,
Yeah,
where everything, White was out, Timber was out, Tierney was out, obviously Tomiyasu was out because he was always out. I don't hate on Tomiyasu. Just frustrates me a lot because he was such a bit of a stalwart of a player, but just not available enough. And Zinchenko was out, wasn't he? So we literally at the start of the season, we had essentially Calafiori basically was at right back, and then it was at left back, and then it was back at right back, then it was back at left back, and then the other right back went out, and we had the centre mid at right back. So it's yeah, I don't think we need to be in that position again.
no, and in a summer where we've been so good at managing our depth, and we've been intelligent and sensible about building the squad so that we've got two players for each position. You would maybe say left back is the one area where we have three with Lewis Kelly, Calafiori, and Zinchenko. But if Calafiori's had this stop-start nature to his preseason, with the injury stopping him from being able to build momentum, while Zinchenko has been available for all the preseason so far, my opinion would be we should be keeping him for the time being.
Yeah,
Look at maybe loaning him out by the end of the month if Calafiori is back. Maybe he
yeah,
just wasn't in the pictures today, and maybe he will be back. We don't know. But
yeah.
I
I mean,
think, yeah,
he doesn't strike me as the person that kind of goes at anything half-heartedly. I think he's just a bit gung ho in the sense of he's come to a new league. He's been given like training methodology and whatever to get up to speed, and he's probably doing 150% of that training methodology rather than 100% of it. Do you know what I mean?
yeah. No, I
He
get
kind
what
of
you're saying.
comes across as that guy where he's committed, so he has to I don't know, overcommit if you like.
Yeah, and Khalid's made a good point as well. He just said that is he maybe getting injured so much because he's playing at left back that he's maybe got the body of a centre back and it might be too physically demanding. I'm not sure if that's a thing. I know that when we have seen him in preseason, or at least when I watched him, he was kind of playing more in Gabriel's position at left centre back. And we saw him wandering upfield and kind of charging the box a lot just to be that extra. We talked about chaos elements, and he's another one that can do that. Um, but we need him available, and then we can figure out whether left back or left center back is the best thing, because Kivior has been able to deputize at left back as well. If we end up deciding that Calafiori's more suited to being left center back, then fine, he can rotate with Gabriel, and Kivior can be primarily a left back backup for Lewis Kelly.
Yeah, it's a shame because I think Calafiori would suit a three really
Like three
well.
at the back.
Yeah, I think he would work really well in a three. So he basically got obviously the two cover, the midfielder cover, and he can go off gallivanting rather than. I mean, I think it was fine when we had Party to do that. I don't know if it's going to work with Zubimendi doing the same thing, because I don't think he'll drop in like Party did.
Well, you said you watched Zubimendi quite a bit. Did he ever slot into the back line just to cover?
He has,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
he's not that guy. He won't stay there.
No, no, not staying there, but
Yeah,
just occasionally if Calafiori sees an
yeah. I mean,
opportunity.
he's astute enough that he can see when it needs to happen. But yeah. And the problem is as well is if he ends up in that situation, he's going to give penalties away and maybe get red carded and stuff like that because he's going to be the last man.
Well, if Saliba's back there with him, is there as much concern?
No, but obviously he's making up the space of the other centre back, isn't he? So he's basically going to be not dropping in to make it 3. He'd be dropping in to make it 2, wouldn't he? Because the other centre back is up the field.
Yeah, because Calafiori would be up the field.
Yeah. But when Partey did it before, obviously had Gabriel there, and albeit they'd attack, they wouldn't necessarily be. They wouldn't be in the opposition box unless it's a corner. So they're still available to get in. If they needed to get in, whereas. Obviously, Calafiori is making a marauding run on goal. He's by their 6-yard box, and they just ping a ball out. I just worry about that, to be honest.
Do you think there's any chance at all that Arteta would be experimenting with a 3 at the back formation of any kind?
No.
Like with wing backs, because Martinelli might actually function well as a left wing back.
I just don't see it.
No, I don't think we've quite got the style of players to play a 3 at the back. But I just got to thinking when you said that Calafiori might be suited.
Yeah, we kind of formed a 3, but we only really formed a 3 because you got the 2 centre backs and the defensive mid when he wasn't playing right back. But but we don't really play a 3 at the back, and I don't see it, because if we were going to do that, we'd need another 2 centre backs, wouldn't we?
Yeah, we probably would,
or at least one that can play either side.
Well,
so
we've seen White, Timber, Gabriel, Saliba, Kivior, these are Calafiori, all centre-back options. So if we ever did experiment with 3 at the back, we do have enough centre-backs and depth to try that out. It's more the wider positions that I'd be wondering whether we have quite the right profiles to play a formation with 3 at the back.
Yeah, I mean, as Khalid said, we do build up with 3, we do. But that's not the same thing. That's not playing 3 at the back. But yeah, it does worry me a little bit, and it does make me wonder whether we should just switch to a double pivot with Rice and Zubimendi as 2 6s, if you like.
Yeah.
And then they rotate the push.
Do you think that might be? I wouldn't be surprised at all, I'll say, if that were to happen. Basically, it's not a huge shift from how our midfield is normally set up with 1 at the base and 2 8s ahead of him. But if you think back to maybe 10, 11, 12 years ago, when around the time when Mesut Ozil joined us, and we had Arteta, Ramsey, Ozil. Arteta and Ramsey were essentially a double pivot, and then we had other options as well in Coquelin and Cazorla, who were also a double pivot with Ozil ahead of them. But one of those players would kind of always tend to stay back further. The other one would be more box to box. So when it was Arteta and Ramsey, then Ramsey would be the one that was box to box a lot more. Cazorla, just because of his footwork and his ability, would often end up higher up the pitch, while Coquelin would kind of hold the fort down in front of the defense. I wouldn't be surprised at all if we end up seeing Rice maybe back with Zubimendi at times, but then also wandering forward to help. He's got the endurance for it.
Yeah, I think he does that naturally anyway, and that's what will kind of continue to happen. What I need not to happen is for Odegaard to be that guy that comes down to do the same thing, because I think he needs to be the creative element of further forwards. And I think a problem that has kind of arisen, particularly last season, is that he was coming back so much to receive the ball that, you're trying to get the ball to the creative player, but the creative player's already got the ball.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the problem was that the other players we had in midfield, we've talked before about how Jorginho's legs were gone, right? Or that Partey was too slow on the turn, whatever it was, that he'd take too many touches to get the ball forward in transition. I think Zubimendi will help that situation a little bit more. And you talked about this yesterday, where he's got this ability to be kind of the metronome, the conductor, and have the play go through him a lot quicker. He's ambidextrous. If he functions in that way, where Zubimendi is able to play those passes and be creative from back there just in front of the defense, then I think Odegaard will stay a little further up. And we saw signs of it in preseason. I remember seeing it for sure. I'm trying to remember which game specifically, but there were instances, it might have been against Spurs in the first half, where he was asking to receive the ball, not in front of the entire opposition, but in between the lines, in between the attacking and midfield lines of Spurs, or in between their midfield and defensive lines, which indicates that he is staying further up. He trusts his teammates to be able to find him there. And now he's got fewer opposition bodies to try and pick a pass through, which he can do. We've seen him do enough times. So I think we will see Odegaard not drop as deep, because we've got enough players now we trust to do that job, and who normally have to stay further back anyway. So I think we'll see better from Odegaard, not to mention his injury. I think he has looked like he's over that injury
sure.
now.
But we kind of need to see Rice as a 6 to 8, if you like, and then Odegaard as an 8 to 10, rather than just solely as a 10. If that makes sense, because it just gets dragged out of position, and little options. But I, as we said again, with Gyökeres taking those spaces up, I think that it's going to provide a different option, that he can maybe slide the ball down the left wing, and then it gives another option to get down to the byline, maybe stretch the play that way, and then it switches back the other way, and Saka, Odegaard, whoever creates the overload.
Well, Gyökeres also, I've seen enough of his clips and read plenty about him to see that he does tend to, if he's not in the middle, he does tend to venture a little bit more towards the left, and he tends to gravitate towards the left-hand side in the attacking part of his team. So maybe that is like what you're saying. Maybe him venturing over on the left-hand side will give us an option to stretch other teams that way. Because Odegaard does primarily operate from the right side of midfield, right? So he might look to switch the play and find Gyökeres more left. It also might give us opportunities to have Gyökeres and Martinelli swap now and then. Because Martinelli, if you think back to 22-23, when he had that real burst of form at the start of that season, why did it happen? Because we had Jesus in there, who also tends to go on the left wing.
It wasn't just Jesus; it was Havertz as well, because they were.
No, this is before Havertz. Before Havertz. So before we brought Havertz, 22-23, the first title challenge season. So when we brought in Jesus, he also tends to venture towards the left-hand side, which allowed Martinelli to swap and sometimes go central. That's what tended to confuse opposition defenders a little bit, and it allowed both of those players to get in space. So maybe that's something that Gyökeres and Martinelli are able to recreate in transitions.
Yeah, I mean, this is quite an interesting one as well, where it says, do you guys worry about Eze working as a left wing? I feel they occupy the same space as required. Rice underlapping basically does. I think he would do that, because he plays basically as a left 10 now, and he's not a left winger as such. So he would probably start as a left wing and essentially drift inside. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing.
No, I don't think so at all. I don't think it's a bad thing.
And obviously you've got Gyökeres who naturally drifts that way anyway. So I don't think you'd see a problem with it as such, because that's kind of what you see it with Ødegaard and Saka on the other side anyway.
Yeah, it is what you see on that side. And I think Rice, just because Rice might be operating in the left 8 spots, if you go back and watch some games from last season, there were many occasions where Rice would end up drifting out anyway towards the left touchline. And
well, that's only because he's priming for a corner, though, right?
No. Like, go back and watch.
I was just joking.
Yeah,
I was just joking.
So I can remember 2 instances where I know Rice was out on the left-hand side. One was Lewis Skelly's goal against City at the Emirates. He did play the pass to Lewis Skelly from the touchline. And then the other one, if I remember right, was Marino's goal at home to Real Madrid.
He actually did it for England as well a couple of times.
Yeah, he's done it there too.
Didn't he score from that position where he basically marauded back into the corner of the box, and then
he might have done.
I think, but he either scored or he was close anyway.
So Eze being left wing but drifting inside, I don't think would be the worst thing in the world. It, like I said, if it creates a little bit of this swapping between 2 players for brief spells of games, even if it's for 5 or 10 second stretches, is that a bad thing? I think all it does is tend to confuse opponents a little bit more. And as long as our players are on the same wavelength about it, then it can function. The other thing to consider is if Eze and Rice are both on the pitch, who else is there with them, right? Like, what's the midfield balance? Yeah. What's the left-hand side balance? Like, who's playing at left back? Who's playing in that side for them to dovetail with? Because Rice also can operate on the right-hand side, like for the right 8 position. If, let's say, Ødegaard is being rested and Rice is playing on that right-hand side, his goal at United away came from the right-hand side. His goal at Newcastle, or against Newcastle at the Emirates near the end of last season, he was sort of drifting in from that side. So he is able to be effective. He's got that in his locker to be on the right-hand side. So maybe if Eze is on the left wing, that's done when Rice is playing more on the right side of midfield and dictating play from that side. And then maybe Marino is playing at left 8 or Havertz is playing at left 8. You know, there's options we have there.
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to address this because we did address this yesterday and we couldn't get on the live, or we got on the live, but it wasn't live on YouTube for whatever reason. So I don't know exactly what was going on there. I kind of made the point that I think that Zubimendi is going to set up pretty much most of the transition threat.
Right.
So where you've got Partey and he's basically trying to bring the ball under control, and he's intercepted the ball, he's basically got to take 3 touches and kind of got to look up and, you know, scan the whole pitch and, you know, kind of bring the ball under control while bundling around the pitch a little bit. Zubimendi won't have to do that. He'll already have the map in his head. He'll know where players are. And even if he doesn't know specifically where the players are, he'll have the target, the zone. He will be targeting an area where the other players who are going into the transition will already know he'll be targeted in those areas. Mm-hmm. So, which is it's exactly how Liverpool operated, not necessarily last season, but probably the season before, where Van Dijk, for example, would spread a ball, you know, to the right wing before anybody can get back into position. It would be played in front of Salah, and he can run onto the ball, and he either runs with it towards the goal or he holds it up whilst he can get support. But invariably, most players know it's going to happen anyway. So they're already on the front foot. They're already in transition before the transition even happens. And that's how transition football works. It's not. It's all premeditated. So it's all like, well, yeah, you're looking for this zone, you're looking for that zone, you're looking for that zone, and if you hit any of the three of them, and no one of them's not there one time, then we go again. It goes to the other one. It goes to the same one. Whatever. Everybody's prepared for it. It's a bit like a poker game, really, because it's kind of you're gambling on the space.
Yeah.
But you see a lot of times that that strikers actually score from certain positions, and it's not because they're reading the play. It's because they're playing into that position. That's the danger area. Everybody knows to attack that danger area. The ball has to go in there. Everybody's confused. Everything's up in the air, and they get a tap in. So
yeah,
that's how the transition needs to come back.
I agree. I think we do need to add that transition element to our game.
Yeah, everything's just been. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean they play like 4-2-4, and it's murder to get round.
Yeah,
and they're so fast with it. But obviously, if you can push them back into it, into their defensive kind of formation, then obviously you're in a better position. But if they're just in their attacking formation, then they're set up to kind of knock you down before anything. So yeah. But yeah, I just want to say that. So what's that? Oh, you're right. Some Ben's range of passing helps us massively. Look, I mean, you've kind of got to take into account that he's come from a different league, and it's completely different. But I really don't think it's going to be a problem for him. I wish that we had a Partey to kind of transition the period, but obviously we don't have that option anymore.
I think that is where Rice comes in a little bit, because even though I think the plan is for him to obviously play left 8 more, he has played in that 6 role for a while, which can help ease Zubimendi into the role perhaps a little bit more. And that's also where Norgard comes in, because he's played in that position, albeit for a different side, but he knows the role. And we've, I think, been able to see that because both Norgard and Zubimendi have had a lot of minutes so far in preseason. I would expect that they both are going to play quite a bit over the remaining 2 games in the Emirates Cup. And I think Zubimendi will play a little bit more, because I'm guessing the plan is that he starts at Old Trafford. In order for that to happen, he needs to get as many minutes as possible under his belt, playing with the rest of the squad, so that if he is going to help with those transitions, the rest of our players need to understand where they need to be to make those transitions happen.
But also, I think from the point of view that the season, we're 12 days away now, I think the starting 11 has to go out now. I think it has to be the starting 11, not the, unless you're trying to confuse people of what your tactics are and you're setting up games behind closed doors and such like. I can see value in splitting the group, but if you're not doing that, then the group has to be together. It has to be essentially the first 11, and you do the changes from half time from that point of view, rather than half and then switch the half and half over in the second half, if you like.
I think the last preseason one we have, is it against Bilbao? The one we have this weekend.
Yeah.
I think that one is probably the one where I would agree and say that we need to have our planned starting 11 playing together.
Yeah, because we got 2, right? We got one tomorrow.
We have Villarreal tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then Bilbao on Saturday, I think. So I think the Saturday game is the one where I agree we would probably need to have our or Arteta would want to have his planned first choice 11 play together for a good chunk of that match just to see how they handle it. But the Villarreal one, I think there's still room for some experimentation, and like players like Gyökeres and Mosquera didn't get too much playtime so far.
He didn't have a training session though, did he? Gyökeres didn't.
He had one. He had one open training
session. He didn't
in Hong Kong. Wasn't there footage of him in part taking part in training?
Yeah, I think he came out to kind of warm up and then went inside.
Oh, okay, maybe that was it.
Yeah. I don't think.
Now that he's had some more training under his belt with the squad, he'll get some proper minutes. I'm guessing tomorrow. Mosquera will get some proper minutes. Madueke has just come back to training, so I would be surprised if we see a lot of Madueke tomorrow, but I expect we'll see a good amount of him on Saturday. And then the other question then is Trossard, whether he's injured or fit, who plays on the left wing, because if Madueke is not yet ready, then that means Martinelli is guaranteed to start at left wing. He's got to show it now that he deserves that starting spot at Old Trafford.
Madueke's got to be ready though, hasn't he? Because I know he hasn't trained with the squad, but he's had pre-season, hasn't he, with having the Club World Cup anyway.
I don't know if I count that as pre-season. I think that's just an extension to the end of last season, and then he had 2 weeks.
It's just
holiday.
In reverse now, right?
Yeah, he had the 2 weeks holiday after that because he wanted to join.
So you normally take that holiday and then do the pre-season, but he's just got the pre-season early.
He wanted to join up with Arsenal right after the transfer happened, but I think the club said you need to take at least 2 weeks off, a proper off season, and then let's see where you're at after that. So he hasn't had that much of an off season, which means I think they would need to manage him very carefully because you don't want to overwork the player either. Like you're risking injury for no reason if you do that. Yeah.
But Khalid, I know you've got to go shortly, so you just need to get through the last 5 minutes, and we'll head out and leave you to it. Guys, if you're in here, please make sure you're hitting the like and subscribe, and share the chat, share the live as well. That would be much appreciated. Thank you very much. The big thumbs up is what makes all the good stuff happen. So as many thumbs up as you can possibly do, please. Thank you very much indeed. Is the new signings enough to take us over the line, or will Arteta have to make tactical changes to where we currently play?
Oh, I think both. The new signings were important, but we've read enough about how Gyökeres has made it sort of essential that we adapt to what he's used to. And he'll have to do a little bit of adaptation as well for how we play. But that middle ground somewhere that you've been talking about as well is don't get rid of our structure entirely, but also throw in a little more of the transitional element.
Yeah, for sure.
If you're able to do both, then great. That's the balance we need to find.
I think that's going to come naturally, but again, I think my worry is that the balls that Zubimendi sprays, I'm okay with them going down the middle. I'm okay with them going down to the right with Saka. If White's there, if Timber's there, I'm okay with that. My issue is when they come to the left. Now, again, not too bad if Lewis Skelly's inverted and he's kind of got to that point already. But I don't want every pass to go to every player. Do you know what I mean? I want to be missing players out.
Mm-hmm.
So if you've got a winger, I want him to be able to receive the ball and not have to rely on the striker to kind of knock it into his path to actually be effective. So that would be my criticism of not getting a Rodrigo, Leao, that kind of type of player, because if that was happening with either of those two players, I kind of trust it to happen.
Would it the thing is that you have to consider both sides of it. That yes, it'd be great to have those players because they help us transition quicker in attack, but will those players also do what our current wingers do in terms of helping out defensively? Because right now I can't fault either of our main wingers, Martinelli or Saka, for that. They are always there helping out at the back.
Yeah, maybe that's part of the problem.
That
Maybe
they're back there
they're
as well.
back and there's no outlet. And then the transition is so slow to happen because they're already, they're on the edge of the box or whatever. So maybe it's a bit of that. Yeah,
I think
I just think, yeah, you can't. At some point, you just have to focus on attack, and that's let's be real. That's what Liverpool have done this transfer window.
yeah, I mean, for Liverpool, I wonder what's happening with their defensive depth because Van Dijk is older, um, and you look at their centre back depth, and they don't have a lot. So I think they are reliant a little bit on the fact that their attack is going to be so powerful that they will be able to outscore most, if not all, opponents.
Yeah,
Um, but in answer to Khalid's question, I think new signings enough. It wouldn't be enough on its own,
no,
but I'd back Arteta to also have the tactical changes in mind to get the best out of not just the existing players but the new ones and how they gel together. I think tactical changes are needed too, because if I'm honest, last season at times the football was a little bit stale, for lack of a better word. Um,
sanitized.
yeah, a little bit slow at times. It looked like we didn't
Mm.
have the ideas, and I'm well aware that a lot of it was caused by the fact that we just didn't have our best players able to play together or at 100% or whatever the reason is. But the fact is that we weren't able to break teams down as much, or at least we weren't able to maintain that control over games as much.
Yeah, for
Like
sure.
the 13 or 14 draws that we had kind of speaks enough that we were able to take the lead in games but not see them out.
Yeah, I will say that obviously some of that is taken a bit out of context.
Yeah.
A lot of people use the amount of draws, and while some of them stand up, not all of them, and um, we were rotating at the end of the season to try and get a starting 11 in the Champions League without a striker,
Mhm.
and we're having a midfielder as a striker. But I mean, some would argue that Havertz is that anyway. But yeah, we actually had a proper midfielder up as a striker. So you know that there is a bit of context to be added. Again, in certain games, simply not good enough. And that needs to change this time around. I don't think anybody would disagree with that. Um, yeah, for intensive purposes, I think the depth is there now. So at least if it happens again, we have an able kind of stand-in. I don't. There's a drop off from the starting player to the reserve player. Obviously, you're always going to get that, but I don't think it's a gulf.
No, I
Um,
agree. Yeah.
it was last season and definitely the season before, where if you've got one player injured, the drop off is radical, and you get two injuries, and you're looking at the bench going, "What the hell is that?" You're going into youth players on the bench, and I don't mind youth players on there, but I don't want it to be kind of all made up of the youth players, and I want a nice sprinkling of them so they can get a bit of game time if they can get them.
It would be nice to have a few more games where we're comfortably ahead in with 20-25 minutes to go. It feels like it's been a while since we've had those games where we're 3 or 4 nil up against an opposition side by the 60th or 70th minute. I'm thinking the reason I make that point is because
it's only a year ago though, because we did Burnley, we did West Ham, we did
it's not been that long, but it feels longer, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does feel like a long time, but
I was thinking purely from the side of getting our young players a little bit of a look in. Like, you remember when Nwaneri made his debut for us at 15?
Yeah.
We were 3-0 up away at, was it Bournemouth at the time?
Yeah.
I can't remember if it was Bournemouth or Brentford. We were away to one of them when Nwaneri made his debut for us at 15. I'm just thinking...
I think it was Bournemouth.
In order for players like Marley Salmon or Max Dauman to make their debuts for the first team, if that is the plan. Maybe they're not yet going to be integrated into competitive first team games, but if they are going to get a look in, it would be nice if we can get some sort of style in play where we kind of blow teams away, at least sometimes, so that those players also get a taste for the top level in a competitive manner, because they've done very well so far in preseason, but it's preseason.
Yeah, I want to do that day one, man. But there we go. There's no.
You play them at United.
Well, you've already got Man United fans that basically going, "Oh, we're going to destroy you because it's Old Trafford, it's this, that, and the other." And you're like, right, okay. If you beat Arsenal, the title charge is going to be on, isn't it? You know what's going to happen. So I just want to shut them up before they even start.
I won't say anything yet, because I think we do have a very strange tendency to not take advantage of them, even when they're at their low points.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the FA Cup game was just ridiculous. We had so many chances. I'd argue that the ref was on our side for a change, we got a penalty and that wasn't converted. Ended up penalty shootout, which what seemed like it was a home end for them. I don't really understand that, to be honest. I did message the club about that actually, and just go, right, okay, well, if you're going to do that, can you at least put the away fans down the side and not behind the goal? They basically said, well, we have no plans to change that. I was like, well, you're basically giving home advantage to an away team then, aren't you?
Well, let's just hope we beat United on opening day.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't even need it to be convincing, to be honest.
Do you expect to see Dauman or Salmon or any of these younger players tomorrow?
Yes. Yeah, I think that they'll play. As you said, I think that there's probably going to be more technical elements where it's a bit more trially than anything else. I was a bit. It was a bit weird in the Tottenham game that the length of time that it took for the substitutes to happen, because obviously in a friendly, I know it wasn't really a friendly, but you normally see the substitution come well near half time, and that didn't seem to happen for some reason. So I expect the ones that didn't get all the time to be getting more game time.
I just think that would have been, as preseason ramps up and we're getting closer to the regular season, you're aiming for your key first team players, the ones that are like first names on the team sheet. You want them to start being able to play more minutes,
especially the new guys that need to be playing with the old guys.
Well, the newer guys who might have been on, like for example, Madueke, who's been on off season and all, they might still be a step or two behind in terms of how much they can play of a match. But when you look at your Saka, your Rice, your Saliba, the spine of your team, the really key players, you want them to build their way up to the fact that they can comfortably play 70, 75, maybe 80 minutes. That only happens by delaying their substitutions. You keep them going on because you're now past the stage of getting back into shape. You're now, okay, this is the finer points. You're trying to build your way up to perfect match fitness.
Yeah, so well, Khalid said here that maybe Arteta saw how rashly Spurs were going to challenge and protect the youngsters, giving them less minutes. I I think it's more, dare I say, calculated than that. That's why I think that maybe they're trialing something behind closed doors that they don't want anybody to see yet.
It's possible. I do think Khalid has a point as well, though. I think, given the fact that, and Newcastle is the same, I think
Yeah.
if you're playing against sides that have got the bit between their teeth against us in particular, and they're not exactly treating it like a friendly and they're going a little bit harder than expected, then yes, I think you would want to shield some of the younger players that might not be used to this level yet. Um, I wouldn't be surprised at all if this was part of the reasoning that they didn't play as much against Spurs. Again,
Yeah, maybe.
I didn't catch the second half of that game, so I don't remember off the top of my head how much exactly they played. But I wouldn't be surprised that that's why they got fewer minutes. I think part of it is also what you said. Part of it is what Khalid is saying, and part of it is that the first teamers need to be able to play the majority of the match,
Yeah.
which is also what he's building them up to doing.
So trying to build on stamina as well.
Like, I think we'll see that against Villarreal as well. I think you'll see subs happening more at the normal time, 60 minutes onwards, not so much at halftime.
For sure, yeah. Yeah, I completely buy that. But yeah, so yeah, good discussion as with yesterday. Bruno, pleasure having you. I know you have to go, so we're going to cut it there. But yeah, we're not going to do a show tomorrow. We're going to do one on Thursday. Bruno, you up for that?
Yeah,
Thursday?
should be fine for that.
Okay, cool. So yeah, it'll be about the same time, about 7:30 p.m. Hopefully you can join us then. If you're in here, please make sure you're hitting the like button, sharing the video, and drop some comments into the comment section below. We're going to be making some changes around here, just kind of livening things up a little bit with graphics and stuff. So look out for that. But yeah, in the meantime, this is Footy Corner. I'm Sparks, and we'll see you on Thursday. Good night.
See you.